Hey, everyone. Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. Hope you're doing well. And it is time for our weekly track roundup, where I go over what I felt were the best and the worst tracks of the week. The room's obviously a different color right now. I got things going on in my life, guys. Things are happening in my life that are not just music related. I do things. I do things other than making content on the internet. Why do you think I got a screwdriver on my desk over here? Okay, why do you think I got a screwdriver? But still, that has not changed the fact that we are sponsored by the good people over at The Ridge. They make these nifty metal-plated wallets, money clip or strap on the back. They hold your cards quite nicely. Been rocking mine for months now. It's still holding up. Get your own. Join the minimalist wallet revolution. Destroy and replace your disgusting leather bulky wallet that you are still hanging onto. God, why? Using the link down below. Use promo code MELON to get 10% off. And also down there are our Amazon and Turntable Lab associate links, especially that Turntable Lab link. Hit that one up, get a colorful pressing of a record we have reviewed on the channel. We get kickback from it, supports the channel, supports the segment. Treat yourself. And here we are with the worst tracks of the week. Quite a few this week. It has not been the most positive week. There are great tracks this week, don't get me wrong. There are great tracks, but a lot of trash came out. First, this new Tove Lo song, which I am not very into at all. It's been a while since I have covered Tove Lo's music. This new track over here, Glad He's Gone. I do appreciate the sentiment of independence on this song, the feeling of, this guy was a dick, I don't need him anymore, but the song is subpar. It's this boring, somewhat unself-aware fusion of pop and hip-hop, and the music video is demented in a way where it just kind of makes me worry about Tove Lo's well-being. Makes me worry. Moving on from there, we have a new tepid song from Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds, Rattling Rose. It is just a very basic and completely thankless piece of over-the-hill rock and roll with kind of a psychedelic twist to it. Not much in the way of flavor or excitement on this one, but no surprise there. Moving on, we have Miley Cyrus with the track Catitude featuring RuPaul, which is, it's a hot mess. Miley's rapping, her foghorn voice, the way her voice is mixed, the instrumental, while this track is featured on a small EP, and you know, it's not as bad and over the top and overblown as like Dead Pets. We are reaching like Dead Pets levels of awfulness here. So new Miley Cyrus project out now. Catitude is a terrible song on it. Moving on from there, we have a brand new track from a project by the name of Ideal. Seraphim is the name of this cut. It is spearheaded, or at least it includes Hunter Hunt Hendricks, who you guys might remember from the band Liturgy. And from what I had read, sort of over an Instagram description, this track features elements of trap, but also gent. It's got a bit of a prog metal vibe as well. There are some compositional elements of this track that I think are okay, but the production is just way too much of a train wreck, and the vocals leave a lot to be desired. You know, I want to see some of the cool things going on this track, but there are just too many like negatives working against it that I would love to see smoothed over on a future song. Though I am loving those natural camo boots in the shot. That's quite nice. Moving on from there. Hervé Piguez, Diplo, and Charlie XCX Spicy is the name of their new collaborative track over here. And it's kind of a remix, kind of a flip, kind of a cover of the Spice Girls song, Tell Me What You Want. And I don't know, man. It's a bit of a hot mess. I'm not sure what else else there is to say about it. I mean, it's a little. I want to see, or rather, the track is "Wannabe." What I want to say, I wanted to get that title right there, but I wanted to say it's got a bit of a sea punk vibe to it. I don't know, just at least on the music video front. It's some of the vocal processing and manipulations and effects on Charlie's singing just makes it sound terrible. The original structure of the track isn't even intact, which is why I kind of say it's a bit of a remix, even though there is like original production and original singing going into the track, which would make you think it's a cover, but it almost feels like they're just trying to turn it into like a track that would play over well at like an EDM festival or something like that. Yeah, it's a bit of a train wreck, and I think just kind of ruins the song, honestly. As much as I do like Charlie. We also have another track from Damon Albarn's Africa Express, Become the Tiger, featuring Sabot, as well as Mr. Jukes. And another song in from this new project, and I'm still scratching my head, like what exactly justifies this project being named Africa Express? I don't know. I mean, obviously, some of the collaborators are from there, but it mostly just seems like really boring electronic pop without much in the way of like very many international flavors going on in the production in much of anything really. I don't know. I really don't know. I guess I'm just confused. Maybe I'm buying a bit too much in the name, and rather maybe I'm buying a bit too much into the name, and it's distracting me away from what I really should be focusing on. But honestly, even out of the context of the name, I don't think the production, I don't think the song is very good. I don't think the vocals are very compelling. I just feel like the whole Africa Express thing just throws in this added element of, like why? I mean, as someone who has long been a fan of Afro funk and Afro jazz and Afro beat music and so on and so forth. Maybe I'm not as into the current wave of what a lot of people talk about as Afro beats and so on and so forth. But artists like Fela Kuti and so on and so forth. I'm not really vibing with what's going on here. And again, the name just kind of confuses me. It sort of makes me think I'm going to get one thing and I get an entirely different thing. I don't know. Let's move on to the tracks. Let's move on to the artists that I thought were kind of meh. Certainly worth pointing at, certainly worth shouting out, but not really blowing me away or anything. First off, White Reaper. They have come through with a brand new track over here. Might be right. It is a power pop rager. Maybe not much in the way of personality, but if you are a hardcore, like old school Weezer fan, I think you will get into what the band are delivering here. The band is delivering here quite a bit. Moving on from there, the Voidz with Julian Casablancas. They have come through with a brand new cut as well. The title of this one is The Eternal Tao. It actually features some co-production from Mac DeMarco, and it is honestly a bit of a hot mess in my view in terms of the vocals, the songwriting, and the production. Just sounds like a bit of a clusterfuck, even if there are like some chord progressions and some vocals on the part of Julian that I do think shine through a bit. Even though, again, some of the auto-tune on his voice just really turns it into a hot mess. Squadda B of Main Attractions fame has a new project out, which I guess has been produced by none other than Lil B, which is kind of legendary. I think this debut cut over here that was released onto social media is pretty cool. If you guys want to find out more info and then hear the rest of the project, it's linked down below. Squadda's vocal performance here, his rapping didn't blow me away or anything, but the production is actually kind of nuts with all the different sax leads kind of thrown over each other. So props to Lil B on, having a hand in this project and helping it come together. The new single from Rosalía, I'm a little underwhelmed by. It mostly feels like she's trying to take her mainstream flamenco pop sound and try to apply her own version of a Beyonce song to it. It sounds like she's trying to do a Beyonce track. Just honestly, it's what it pretty much seems like she's trying to do. Not only from the tune of the song, but the vibe of the music video as well. And I can't say I think it's going over all that well. It pretty much just feels like a Beyonce ripoff with, of course, those like claps going on in the background and stuff. And vocally, I think she's kind of punching under her weight too. Like she does not go as hard vocally on this cut as she has on a lot of her most recent material. Maybe because I feel like those kinds of vocals that, you find her delivering on some of her more traditional cuts maybe aren't fitting for this kind of song, this kind of instrumental, but still, it's a little disappointing to hear Rosalía singing in a fashion that just seems very middle of the road and very so-so. All right, moving on from there, we have a brand new track from a group by the name of Pipe Eye, which are featured on, I want to say, King Gizzard's label. And of course, because of that, you're going to hear, some psych rock here. It's pretty drippy. It's pretty sweet. It's pretty kaleidoscopic. It's a little quirky as well. Not too in love with the vocals or anything, but I think the instrumental backdrop is quite nice for the psych revivalists out there that can't get enough of the sound. Moving on from there, Metronomy has a brand new single out, which is titled Lately. It's not one of the groovier or funkier singles the group has ever had, but I still think it comes together pretty well. Don't really have anything too negative to say about it outside of, it's just a little underwhelming. But if you're looking for some very light, easygoing, guitar-driven pop with a sweet lead vocal and some pretty pristine production, give this one a shot. Give it a shot. Give it a listen. Moving on from there, we have another single from none other than Mark Ronson, Find You Again, featuring Camila Cabello. This is definitely one of the more promising singles that has been released from his album so far, but he's been releasing track after track after track, week after week after week. By the time this thing comes out, there's not going to be anything left up to the imagination, and it's just going to be, bam, we've pretty much heard most, if not all, of the record. But still, I thought Cabello's vocals on this one were fine, and the tune was certainly more solid than that of his past couple of singles, so I'll give it to him. And Jai Paul has come through with 2 brand new singles. People are like hoping and praying. New project, new album is on the way. The Demos record that leaked of his online several years ago, maybe even longer than that at this point, I can't entirely recall, I apologize. But the Demos project that dropped a while ago on Bandcamp that he eventually said wasn't his, or rather he said that he did not upload it. It was his music, but he did not upload it himself. Somebody else did. He has released that online. People can seek that project out, pay what they want for it, download it. And in addition to that, as I said, he's dropped 2 new tracks, Do You Love Her Now and He. And I know a lot of people have been waiting a long time for new Jai Paul music. Dude could have been like the new wave, the new face of pop and R&B music, and so on and so forth. And honestly, I just find these tracks frustratingly tedious, and the lead vocals are incredibly weak. Production is a little lifeless. I do think there are some cool artsy elements to it that I find admirable, but for the most part, I just think these 2 tracks are very, very so-so. Moving on from there, Hot Chip has a brand new cut out that I think takes a little too long to really kind of get all cylinders firing. And even when it eventually does, it's not so much like, fulfilling and gratifying and groovy. It's more of just like kind of a noisy, cacophonous climax, which I don't think Hot Chip pulls off as many other groups out there. But if you're into a pop tune with a linear direction and some very sweet and tender and the other word I'm looking for is somewhat vulnerable lead vocals, Melody of Love is certainly worth a listen. And Cardi B, her new track over here, Press, which I reviewed on the Fantano channel, I do think has some admirable qualities to it. But Cardi getting in trouble and causing headlines, and the press is obsessed with her, so on and so forth. I feel like she doesn't really dive into that concept all that deeply, and she doesn't really give the full story either. It's mostly just another reason for her to brag that she gains attention, and media outlets are trying to cover every single thing that she does is really, all this track kind of adds up to. And let's get into the best tracks of the week, the tracks that really kind of blew me away, the tracks that certainly left an impression on me, the tracks that I am, looking forward to what they're leading to First, we have a brand new cut from none other than Trippie Redd, Under Enemy Arms, which is attached to a ridiculous music video. I would not pay too much attention to it. Would not pay too much attention to that. But the tune itself is one of his better sung. It's one of his better produced. And I don't know, just looking forward to hearing him kind of carry the torch, continue to carry the torch for that emo trap sound, you know, because it is kind of emotional. It does hit hard. It is aggressive. It is crying on the inside, and I'm liking it quite a bit. Sufjan Stevens has put out 2 brand new cuts, apparently in honor of Pride Month. Love Yourself and With My Whole Heart are 2 very sweet songs from him. With Your Whole Heart is uncharacteristically poppy. At least it's been a while since Sufjan has dropped music in his catalog that is this poppy and this groovy and this sweet to the ear upon first listen. Meanwhile, Love Yourself is a much older song from him, but the way that he updates it with this instrumental over here is that it kind of sounds like a Postal Service song. And not a bad thing, you know, not a bad thing necessarily. It's kind of sweet to hear him kind of pull off that sound pretty well. So if you're looking for some very easygoing synth pop and indie-tronic music, these 2 tracks are certainly worth your time. Slater Kenny has come through with a brand new single, new album on the way, produced by St. Vincent. Okay, so that's pretty exciting. And yes, I am absolutely loving the fact that this single brings back Slater Kenny, like with the Woods, kind of diving into some more daring sounds and production. It doesn't sound like heavy and noisy like the Woods or anything like that. I'm not saying that they're going back to the sounds of the Woods. It's just that, you know, for a long time I've been wanting Slater Kenny to go back into a more experimental direction, you know, take a few more risks. And certainly they are doing that on this brand new cut over here. It hits hard. The synths worked into the track are great. Carrie Brownstein's vocals are super over the top. The guitars are raw as hell, and I think the phone view of the music video is pretty creative and done well too. Also, want to give a shout out to Poppy, who has a brand new cut out featuring the Fever 333. If you guys remember my review of her last album, we did talk about some of the tracks on that record that featured like a bit of a nu metal element, and it seems that she is coming to us with that direction even more. She's going further in that direction. Scary Mask is the name of this cut over here, and once more we are hearing Poppy transition from these light, airy, kind of dramatic verses where she's singing with a very pillowy voice, and then all of a sudden we transition to these heavy, screaming riff packed like hardcore and metal passages that are a little thrashy. They're a little nu metal. Some vocals from the Fever as well come in and kind of just like back it up and just make it even more aggressive. I don't know. I'm just loving it. I think this combination of pop and nu metal music and alternative metal and extreme and industrial metal is the way to go. I think it's bearing out some interesting tracks, some interesting music. Moving on from there, shout out to Chong the Nomad, Nothing Else, featuring Flint, Eastwood. Brand new cut over here. Pretty vocals on this track. Awesome beat. Chong the Nomad is the total package. She can produce, she can write, she can sing, she can get a feature onto a track, structure it all, make it all work. Again, total package. And I don't know. I just will tell you guys, if you listen to any track in this bunch, make it this track, because I feel like she's not getting as much attention as she deserves, and her talent is pretty apparent on first introduction. Incredibly apparent, honestly. Moving on from there, we have another brand new song from King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. Self-Immolate is the name of this cut. And it's funny, this song has reminded me, before the release of the last King Gizzard album, the band dropped another track attached to a music video, a single where they were all in jumpsuits. This track as well, attached to a music video where the band is all in jumpsuits. It's crazy, it's off the wall. And just like with the song attached to that music video, which did not make it on to Fishing for Fishies for obvious stylistic reasons, because it didn't really fit into the boogie vibe of that record, but still, just like with that track, this song over here, Self-Immolate, is the band going thrash metal. It's the band going thrash metal. And I don't know, it's just as good as the last track. So our King Gizzard here essentially gearing up for a thrash metal album. I hope so, because the material so far is sounding great. So I don't know. I'm just gonna leave it at that. It kicks fucking ass. Katy Perry has come through with another new single, Never Really Over, and it slaps. It's great. It's actually one of her best singles in a long time. I feel like to get to that point, though, not only is the tune good, not only is the instrumental great, and her vocal performance is pretty stunning too, but to get here, I feel like she's very, 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 very much taking a page out of the Carly Rae Jepsen playbook, where you've got this very modern, punchy production, very sweet and well-arranged song, but a lot of the synth timbres and some of the percussive elements of the track throw it back to the 80s, throw it back to new wave, throw it back to synth pop. She's not doing like a Tainted Love or anything like that. It's not, she's not throwing it back that hard. I wouldn't say there's like a supreme element of nostalgia going on here or anything like that, but still, like a lot of those melodic and aesthetic foundational elements packed into this track in a creative but subtle way, subtle so that it's the nostalgia isn't the first thing that hits you, feels very 80s, So I think I'll just leave it at that. Again, track slaps. Track is great. Track's amazing. Definitely one of the better pop tunes I've heard this year. Freddie Gibbs and Madlib, new track out, new music video out. Crime Pays, Bandana on the way. It is June. It's coming out in June this month. Bandana is dropping. And smooth, soulful hip-hop, grimy lyrics. Freddie flows. Madlib and Freddie just seem to continue to bring the best out in each other. And Charles Bradley, posthumous album on the way. New track, Lucifer. For whatever reason, every teaser cut I have heard from this forthcoming Charles Bradley record, even though I haven't really been all that crazy about the man's music previously, every track teasing to this album is frickin' fire. I don't know what to say. And this new track over here, Lucifer, is absolutely chilling in terms of its message, its themes, and also Bradley's vocal performance too. Instrumental is dramatic as well. Definitely, loving the dark sort of take on soul music that he and his band members took on this track. It's pretty moving. And Burial has a brand new track out as well, 12-inch on the way. Burial, it's not a whole album. It's not an EP. And the version of this track that you're most likely going to hear at this point is like a radio rip, so the sound quality does leave a little bit to be desired. And while this track is a lot busier, I think, it doesn't have as much open space and atmosphere as any cut off of Untrue. I do like the driving, busy, pulsating beat. Some of the vocal effects on the samples are maybe a little annoying, but again, I feel like the sound quality or the things about the sound of this track that bug me or even that I think are great, I can't fully make a judgment call on until I hear like the actual 12-inch audio quality version of the song, because this radio rip that's floating around the internet, again, it doesn't sound like, all together. It doesn't sound all there. But still, even with what, is presented, it's very impressive. And, I guess you could say it doesn't necessarily blow anything that is his classic stuff out of the water. Doesn't see him moving into, a super different direction or anything like that. But I don't know. I guess in comparison with his past 3 or 4 songs that he's released, if I can remember correctly, because his output is so spotty, I think I've liked this one the most. But, don't quote me on that, I guess. Still, I ended up enjoying it overall, obviously, because it's in the best track section. All right, Adam Green, Freeze My Love, new single from him, new album on the way. Absolutely loved it. Think his lyricism is on point. The strings all over the instrumental here is lovely. The dude's approach to art pop and chamber pop certainly puts him in another league than a lot of other songwriters. Maybe his quirk and maybe his somewhat understated delivery isn't for everybody, and neither is his sense of humor. But still, it definitely is for me. I've been enjoying this man's work since, Moldy Peaches and everything like that. And it's definitely cool to see him continue to grow and progress, even if he does, not stay engaged as often as I would like him to. When he does pop up, it's usually to say or do something interesting. So, Freeze My Love, definitely a great new track from Adam Green. And that has been the Weekly Track Roundup, everybody. That has been the Weekly Track Roundup. Thank all of you very much for listening and watching. And remember, every track that we have talked about in this video is linked down below. Hit up the, the description box for all of that, as well as once more, oh no! As well as once more a link to our sponsor over at the Ridgewall. I just dropped this thing, and it's totally fine. It's totally fine. Didn't even break. Didn't even bust. It's like a brick in your pocket that holds all of your important things. All right. Again, Weekly Track Roundup. You're the best. I'll see you guys in the next video. Anthony Fantano, forever.